Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Boing! Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking here, and I think I'm going to start this one off with a story time adventure. I think that's the best way for me really to do this, so let me tell you the tale of a reindeer that ate a magic mushroom, became a Yeti-human hybrid, went on to become a doctor, invented magical gumballs that allowed him to transform further, became a giant monster without reason or sanity, destroyed a pink-hair kabuki player, and who really liked cotton candy. Stop me if you've heard it before. Oh wait, you have? Okay, well, whatever. My version had giant Gundams at one point, but whatever, I guess I'll just stop the story there. Yes, today's video is about Chopper's Hito-Hito no Mi, or the human fruit. Last week I talked about Robin's Hana-Hana, and the reason I'm doing both of these now is because with the most recent edition of the One Piece magazine Volume 6, in fact, we got the designs for the Hana-Hana and for the Hito-Hito. And like I said in the last one, man, like, we don't get designs for devil fruits very often, and there's like over 100 of them when we only know like 11 or 12. So even if like each magazine only comes out with one or two new designs, I mean, that's better than nothing, right? I just really hope with the next magazine release, and we don't even get the magazine every month or anything, but still that would be good. I just want to see Brooks. I want to see the Yomi Yomi no Mi and how that would look. And maybe some other ones, maybe you can go, because we already know Buggies, but maybe go on to some other devil fruits right there in the series that are very prominent. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Right, so Chopper is a Zoan, and I don't usually spotlight Zoans on this series very much because there's not really much to them. Unless they're ancient or mythical, they're rather simplistic. You know, it's a human usually, has the power of a Zoan, and that gives them animal characteristics. So Kaku eats the giraffe fruit and he becomes a giraffe. He does a lot of unique things with his giraffe powers, and I'm sure he's trained with it even more so since the time skip, but overall, his ability isn't really weird or strange. If you know what a giraffe looks like and you've seen what Kaku looks like, then you could figure out what their hybrid form is going to be. The unique thing with Chopper, even before we get to the whole Rumble Ball thing and Monster Point and all that crap, is that he is not a human that became an animal, he is an animal that became a human. And I know what you're gonna say, is like, well, Matt, you know, humans are animals too. I'm like, well, are you sure? Are you 100% sure? Maybe we're aliens. Maybe we're not even real. Maybe we're in the Matrix right now. I am talking to you through a computer monitor. How do you know I'm real? I might be one of those really advanced VR, you know, CG YouTubers that they're creating, you know, over in Japan, right? I don't even know if I'm real, honestly. But no, yeah, it's unique. It's different. In fact, there's only one other instance of this happening in the One Piece world. We've seen objects eat zones and become animals. We've seen this happen with, like, Lassu and with Funkfried. But when it comes down to animals, or at the very least something that's not a human eating a zone, we have that with Chopper eating the human fruit, and we have that with Pierre, who was Gonfal's trusty bird companion in Skypiea, who ate the horse fruit so he could become a Pegasus. But beyond those two examples, Pierre and Chopper, every other user of a zone in the canon of the manga of One Piece was either a human or an object that ate it, or, you know, consume the power in some method, you know, because objects can't eat. But you know what I mean. Like, when it comes to animals eating these fruits, only Chopper and Pierre, so that's kind of unique there, right? And just the novelty of the fact that he ate the human fruit, okay? So first off, the best advantage of this fruit is that it gives whoever eats it the intelligence of a human. Now, that might be an upgrade or a downgrade depending on who eats it, or what eats it, you know? Like, for example, those sea kings that we saw during Fishman Island, they seemed like rather intelligent creatures. So I'm wondering if a Sea King ate the Hito-Hito no Mi and got all of the powers of human intelligence, that might be maybe a downgrade for that species, okay? But when it comes to, like, regular animals, like Chopper was a reindeer, for instance, that bolstered his intelligence to the point where he could, you know, talk and, like, critically think and stuff like that, and even go on to get his medical degree. So that's pretty cool there, too. That's one thing to note here about the Hito-Hito. I mean, maybe it might depend on the animal that eats it. I like to think that whatever eats the Hito-Hito no Mi will be guaranteed a certain level of human intelligence, and that level of human intelligence is pretty high. Alright, it wasn't like Chopper ate the fruit and he became like just a grunting caveman that just like barely doesn't know how to speak or anything. It seems like, at least, that when Chopper ate the fruit, like, he picked up things like language and various medical skills and all the things about being human. He picked that stuff up pretty quickly, almost as if it was just given to him. Now, I know it was Dr. Hirolook that kind of trained him in medicine a little bit, and then Dr. Kureha later on, and those kind of things. I'm talking just about things like speech. I'm sure Hiruluk might have helped him out with his ABCs and stuff, but from what we see, he was able to pick it up pretty quickly, all things considered, right? So that's the first main advantage of it, okay? And really, I mean, he is able to turn into, like, his giant Yeti human form, which adds some brute strength to it, but I would say the intelligence factor is definitely more useful than that. That's also something interesting about Chopper. Whenever every other Zoan transforms into their full Zoan form, like when Dalton becomes a full bison, when Kaku becomes a full giraffe, they really do look exactly like that animal. There doesn't seem to be any real difference. The only thing that might be changed up is, like, their hair color or something. Like, let's say somebody that's like blonde eats a bear fruit, a bear zone. When they turn into a bear, the bear's fur might be blonde as well. Stuff like that. But they're still a full-fledged bear. But when Chopper transforms into his full form, his full human, Zoan transformation, he doesn't look like a full-fledged human in that regard. He actually has a lot more body hair in places. He looks like a few rungs back, like Homo sapiens, and Homo erectus, Homo habilis, maybe a few stages back there. He gets super muscular, though, and that seemed to be something that just kind of the fruit gave him as well, because as soon as he ate the fruit, he was kicked out of his herd, and then he tried to make friends with humans, and so he turned into his human form and went down to a village, and he already looked like that. He already had the rippling, like, 8-pack and the muscles and everything, so that's something else the fruit just kind of gave him. And keep in mind, when Chopper ate the fruit, he was really young. When he meets Luffy and everybody, he was 15 years old, and it was explained that he was training with Kureha for 6 years before that. He was pretty young when he ate the fruit, even for reindeer standards, I think. And so the fact that he was able to give him that level of human intelligence and that level of human buff, the Armstrong family will carry this reindeer lineage on for generations, like, it goes places, all right? The fruits seem to really help him out a little bit. Like, the human fruit is kind of like, yeah, look, I know I can't give you bear claws, I can't give you giant horns or anything, I can't make you huge, I can't give you a super long neck. I tell you what, I'll give you pretty decent intelligence, enough to become a doctor, and I'll also just give you a default, Armstrong body, and that should be good enough, right? That balances out. Also, your hybrid form will be the most adorable thing ever that you could just slap onto stickers and action figures all over the world and make a boatload of money. That compensates for the lack of battle readiness in the human fruit, right? That's something else that's also really unique with Chopper. A lot of times when people go into their hybrid forms, and I mean it depends on the animal, but it's usually the hybrid form is either the same general height as the person, like Dalton when he turns into his bison form, it's about the same height as his hybrid form. He gets a little bit, taller or whatever. Kaku obviously grows a super long neck and everything. Lucci gets really buffed out when he goes into his hybrid leopard form. But with Chopper, it's actually quite different. He actually shrinks down. I would originally maybe think because he ate the fruit when he was very, very young, maybe his hybrid form is frozen in that time period, like when he was 5 or 6 and he ate the fruit and he's just super tiny and is just stuck like that, because his hybrid form never changes. His original form, his reindeer form, his walk point, that does. So by the time he's age 17, he's big enough so people can actually ride on the back of him, which actually doesn't happen as much as you might think. It happens a lot. I think in the opening of Film Gold, Usopp came riding in on Chopper's back, like firing his slingshot. They need to do more of that in the story. Chopper just like going into his walk point, just charging down enemies and like ramming his antlers into them. That could do some damage, right? Okay, might be a little bit too gory for One Piece, but oh, whatever. Boo-hoo. Chopper's backstory isn't depressing enough. He could gore a few people with his antlers. Come on, Oda. Look at these things. You can't damage anything with these. They're round. You need to get like a whetstone or something, Chopper. You need to sharpen these things to a point, bro. Come on, Chopper. Aren't you tired of people laughing at you all the time? Yes, he is. And you know what he did to get people to stop laughing at him? He invented these things. Rumble balls, baby, which I hear come in lemon, butterscotch, or banana flavor. Butterscotch I'm kind of iffy on, but the lemon flavor I would definitely go with. So basically, and this is something that's with all zones, not just Chopper, all zones are guaranteed the 3-stage transformation, okay? Your original form, hybrid, full animal, or full human in Chopper's case. Cool, right? Well, it kind of works like wavelengths or a spectrum. Think of it like, okay, this is a weird example. Do you guys know what Radio. Do you guys know what a radio is? Okay, cool. I know we very rarely use them in today's culture. Okay, so if you have like a radio in your car, it probably has a feature where you could just push a button and then it will automatically skip through the channels until it finds a channel that's actually picking up a signal, okay? Think of those as like the set zone transformations, like locked in, all right? But if you wanted to, you can manually adjust that radio station to go into the positions between them. All right? Think of that like the rumble ball. Like Chopper invented these things so he can manually control the wavelengths, the spectrum of his fruit. So he can actually start combining forms. He could have a form that's more on his walk point side combined with his hybrid, which kind of ended up being a guard point, you know, where he's still on his, you know, 4 legs and everything, but he has the face of his hybrid form, but he has a bunch of hair like in his walk point form. Or he could combine something more closely to his human guys, which would be like arm point or kung fu point, which is like combining his human and hybrid form together, where he's really tiny, but he knows kung fu. Wah! You know? So that's what the rumble balls are. I'm not really sure, but I'm just going to assume that whenever Chopper pops one of those things, Chopper, you got to be careful with these things. I mean, you're playing around with medicines and drugs and things, and you're eating the mushrooms. I mean, Chopper, calm down, buddy. But I like to think whenever he eats a rumble ball, it's like mentally he's like controlling that dial, and he can like, okay, where do I want? I want jump point. And it lands there, and he goes into jump point, right? So because of that, on top of the 3 transformations he has by default, he was also able to access 4 additional ones. Jumping point, which doesn't get used anymore, and I'm really mad because I kind of like the way jumping point looked. Granted, the applications in battle, I mean, he can jump good, but beyond that, doesn't really have many other applications, so I kind of understand why Oda shelved that one. He's got guard point, arm point, and horn point. Horn point being the most badass, because it allows him to turn his entire body into, well, basically a tank. If we're being honest, that's what it looks like, kind of. His arms go from, hooves to actual human arms, like big burly arms, lands them on the ground, and then his antlers go super huge, and then he just like lays them down like this. So that's the point where he could do, like, he could just run into his opponent and just gore them. He doesn't often use it like that. Usually uses it in conjunction with Usopp's attacks to use the antlers as just like a glorified giant slingshot, which, come on, you're going to the level of having antlers that big, and you're just going to use them as a slingshot? Like, alright, whatever, Chopper. Hey, it's your body. You can do it however you want, alright? You want to do combo attacks? That's fine with me. So, on top of that, though, if he consumes more than 3 rumble balls within, I think, 6 hours, he gains access to his 8th transformation, which is Monster Point. Now, back in Eddie's Lobby when he first used it, by the way, that's one of my favorite scenes in all of One Piece, when Chopper is, like, being a guy, he's up against Kumadori, and he uses his strongest technique that he has while he's in control of himself, the Sakura Rosario thing, where he makes like that blizzard of Sakura petals, which are just like he basically just takes his hooves and just like tenses them up and then just attacks his enemy like that. And that was his strongest move, and that did pretty much nothing against Kumadori. It staggered him a little bit, and that was it. And so there's a moment where you really are feeling sad for Chopper, where it's like he gave it literally all he had, every trick up his book, all of his intelligence, everything, and Kumadori still has him dead to rights. He has him up there with his hair. He's about to just take his staff and just end it like, Song of the Willow! Take it! Like, Kumadori was so much fun. I want to see him again. He's still around. He's not dead. He's there. He can pop back in again. I want some Kumadori action in my One Piece again. But you feel bad for Chopper, and then he pulls out an anime cliche, but one of my favorites. Stop me if you've heard this one before, okay? I have a secret technique that I can pull off, but it's a danger to myself and others, so I don't like to use it very often. But when I do, it makes me look really, really cool, and I can't control my actions, so I'm just a rampaging beast, a force of nature, which is also really cool. Also, I get super strong and buff, which is cool. So yeah, you add all that together, and it's kind of cliche, but it's cool, and you gotta admit that, alright? Like, I wish I was reading One Piece weekly back when he first did that, because I can only imagine the people that looked at Chopper as just, oh, he's just a cute, adorable little reindeer doctor. I mean, yeah, he can fight a little bit, but when he's up against a really strong opponent, what's Chopper gonna do? And then it's like, oh, boom! and it's just like, oh my god, he's awesome. And I love the sound effect, that thing, the roar of Monster Point. It's like blood curdling. It's like Chopper's like he's still there, except all he can do is just scream because he's lost his sanity. Just like, I become a monster. So that's awesome. He does that a few times pre-time skip. Again, at Eni's lobby he uses it, and then later on at Sabaody he uses it. That was even honestly more heart-wrenching there, because at Eni's lobby he was by himself and everything, and that was powerful enough when he's like remembering what happened when he first went into Monster Point, and then he pops it and he's like, please everybody stay away from me, I'm about to lose control. But it's even more powerful at Sabaody when he's literally standing on the sidelines watching all of his friends get defeated by Sentomaru and the PX, and Chopper, you know, he realizes, he comes to a moment where he's like, imagine like he's having like time slowing down, like time dilating, where everyone's like, Chopper, we need to get out of here! Oh my god, there's laser! And Chopper's just like, his eyes go wide, and he's like, everybody's going to die, this is gonna happen. And so he snaps out of it, and he's like, I need to do something! If I don't do anything, we're all gonna die! Screw this! And he just downs 3 Rumble Balls at once. He just takes 3 and just gulp, and then he turns into it. Now, it doesn't do that much damage, but you got the soundtrack playing in the background, and it's pretty powerful, right? Now, unfortunately, ever since then, after the time skip, Chopper has gained control of his Monster Point form, which, you know, it's still, I mean, it adds new layers of comedy into it, like when he goes into it at Fishman Island and everything, and Usopp's like, Chopper, you didn't have to go crazy, and he's like, it's fine, Usopp, it's just me, ho ho ho. You know, so it is still funny seeing him like that, it's just, you know, it's not the same, you know? I want to see Berserk Chopper, and I think Oda knew that we were gonna miss it, because during Punk Hazard, when they body swapped, Frankie got put into Chopper, then went into Monster Point, except Frankie lacked the mental training, I guess, to control that form, so he could no longer, you still had Rampaging Chopper there, but we're probably not gonna get Rampaging Monster Point Chopper anytime soon. I don't know, there might be a way. Maybe Chopper now has, like, a new limit, like, okay, 6 Rumble Balls within 3 hours, then I turn into, like a super uber Monster Point, like I grow wings and I'm like I'm a reindeer dragon all of a sudden. That makes you wonder, like, how many of these things could he down before stuff doesn't start to look good, you know? Like, 3 was his first limit, does he have a new one? What happens if he takes 4 or 5? Does he turn into his Monster Point? Does he just get more sick? I don't know exactly, but even right now in the story, going into Monster Point, there is a detriment. He still requires 1 Rumble Ball to do it, and afterwards he can't move for a while, so it's not something he can do, you know, just, like, he can't just go into it at the start of the battle, like, don't worry, guys, I got this. And because if the fight lasts more than, like, a few minutes, he's gonna go back into his regular form, and he won't be able to move around very much. He's not out of commission for too long, but it's long enough where his body is immobilized, and he can't move at all. So it's like, you gotta get the job done when you go into it and defeat the enemy as quickly as possible, or else you're going down. As for the other transformations he had, he swapped out Arm Point for Kung Fu Point, which I guess is just basically Arm Point strength that just gives him much more mobility, because when he was in Arm Point, it was maybe he couldn't move around very much, so now he's just more compact with all the strength in his, like, shorter arms, okay? So, you know, sacrificing a little bit of range for just a lot more agility, so he swapped out Arm Point for Kung Fu, and then, of course, you swapped out Jumping Point for Monster Point, which I guess I can't be too upset about that. The big question always is, there's 2 of them. Number 1, what would happen if some other zones ate the Rumble Balls? And, like, I think, like, with Chopper, there's a little bit of mental training have to be going on here, because if that was the case, like, if it was all in the Rumble Balls, like, if that's all that mattered, when Frankie popped a Rumble Ball and went into Monster Point, he should have been able to control it as well, but he couldn't. So I think, like, along with the Rumble Balls, there's some, like, mental training you have to, like, kind of really control that, like, radio dial, the tuning, so to speak, and be like, alright, I'm gonna transform into Guard Point, alright, and then go! And then you transform into it. So there's probably some training with that. And then the other question that people always always ask is, what would happen if a human ate the human fruit? Of course, not a lot of people are asking what would happen if a giraffe ate the giraffe fruit or anything, but okay, fine. So Oda came out and explained this. If you eat the human fruit and you're a human, then you will just become enlightened. So I guess that means you gain access to Sengoku's fruit as well. You become the Buddha. I don't know really what enlightening means, but I will tell you one thing, and I'll close it out with this. I know this video wasn't as long as the others, but we pretty much covered everything already in Chopper's video I did like in the Straw Hat discussion series. So I'll leave you out with this. Sort of like a philosophical question, really. What is it to be human? This is where it gets kind of trippy and at the same time a little bit sad, you know, considering how our species reacts to these sort of things. Because right now we're the most intelligent species on the planet. I know you could probably point, well, I don't know about that, Tekking. I have seen certain dogs that are more intelligent than certain people I know. It's like, all right. But you know what I mean. Like, we're able to build cities and all this stuff. Like, you don't see a dog going out building a skyscraper or drafting up plans. Although Duchess was wearing a hard hat the other day and did have blueprints. Okay, sidestep. I haven't seen any goldfish going out and building any complex structures, okay? So, here's the thing, though. Let's say the human fruit existed in our real world, right? And let's say a reindeer or a horse or a dog or something ate it and gained the intelligence equal to a human, and they're able to talk and think and rationalize like the same level as us. Like, the dog could go and give sound advice or give like a lecture on freaking, I don't know, bioengineering. Like, the dog would be capable of doing it at that point. Do you think, well, if it was a dog, it might be, because humans typically like dogs. Let's say it was something unconventional. Let's say it was a bear. Let's say a bear ate the human fruit, and the bear was like, I am so sorry for my gruff behavior. I am now much more intelligent. Like, the bear stands up, puts on a pair of glasses, and just like, oh, yes. Well, anyway, welcome to this symposium here on physics, you know, like on astrophysics. Let's talk about this. So, this, the red spot on Jupiter is rather interesting. Do you think society would accept such a being, or do you think we would just as quick as possible? Because I kind of feel like we would as quick as possible, or we would take it and throw it in some lab and study it. It wouldn't be granted the same rights as we are. You know, even though like in terms of intelligence exactly equal to or greater than every other human around, that's what makes it kind of sad, because I don't think humans would just be like, oh, well, you are just, and like, if it was proven, and if it was just like, oh, this bear is just as intelligent as us, and it has all those things, and it won't eat people, it'll go dine out at restaurants and whatever, and it's just a bear, you know, and then let's say it's able to do the same thing Chopper can do, like, just for the sake of, like, fitting through doors and, like, sitting down at a table, it could transform into, like, a hybrid form and, like, a human form and everything like that. I don't think such a being would be accepted in our world, because it's like, humans are, like, we like being on top, and we like being the only ones on top. You know, even going back, that's, you know, you had humans that came out of Africa, you know, but then you also had the Neanderthals in Europe. So guess what happened? Do you think we got along? It's like, hey, we're very similar and we have equal level intelligence pretty much, so let's work together to make this work. No. No. Yeah, so that's the sad part. So sorry to leave you on that note, but Chopper's really cute, isn't he? Oh, he's just so adorable. You should go get your Chopper hat today, everybody. Signing out. Later, everyone.